Open and the Professional Bowlers Association presents the championship round finals of the Tucson Open. Welcome everyone to Tucson, Arizona, where it's only 108 outside, but remember, it's a dry heat. However, inside beautiful golden pin lanes, we're nice and comfortable. Hi everybody, Mike Durbin here, working with me once again, PBA ABC Hall of Famer Earl Anthony. And Earl, are you ready to make a comeback out here?
Well, I think the left side is pretty good, Mike, but not that good. It's never going to be that good again. The left-handers have had a wonderful week this week. 3 in the top 5. Parker Bohn, the third, qualifying 5th. Ricky 300 Ward in 3rd place. And our tournament leader, Bob Belmont, who has dominated this event all through the qualifying and the match play. And I'll tell you what, this guy has won 4 regional tournaments, and this is only his 35th tournament on the regular tour, but he feels like he's ready to win. He really does.
How about you, Earl? Do you think he's ready to win?
I think he's ready to win too, Mike.
Okay, if he's going to win, he's going to face a formidable field. In 2nd place, a red-hot Bryan Goebel. In 3rd, former PBA Rookie of the Year, Ricky Ward. And in our opening match, PBA Hall of Famer Brian Voss taking on 4-time Steve Nagy Sportsmanship Award winner, Parker Bohn III. And there's the handshake for the opening match. Parker Bohn up on lane 15. Playing that outside angle, Earl.
That critical outside angle, Mike, where if you make even a small error to the left, the ball's going in the channel and you get 0. All the 3 left-handers will be playing right along the edge of the lane, right around the first arrow, basically. But if they give it just a little bit of room, it could be gone.
Parker cross lane at the 6-pin. We mentioned at the top of the telecast that it is very hot outside. It has caused us a few problems, and we're doing our best to make sure that these technical difficulties don't interrupt with the telecast. But we'll let you know if anything happens as we go along.
One of the best forms you'll ever see in the game of bowling, Brian Voss. Great arm swing. Oh, a little left tap, Mike.
What hit it?
We're going to take another look at that shot and watch what happens. Here's the form of Brian Voss. Look at this great arm swing. The good, straight, long, free swing from the shoulder. A little timing step going into the slide, the long slide. Perfect balance at the foul line. Here's when you get a chance to find out what got that 10-pin, Mike. It was a 6-pin.
Well, Billy Whaley used to say it was the tender touch years and years ago.
A love tap.
Trying for the quick double. Well, a couple of interesting strikes to start the match with.
Well, the scores have been very high all week. The tournament leader averaged about 240 this week, so you can see that the scores are high. We've had 11 300 games. Voss is ready.
Speaking of 300 games, between these 2 players, they have 55 300s between the 2 of them. Just like that.
Well, Parker Bohn has had his problems. Parker Bohn III, I should say, has had his problems finishing tournaments. When he can get to the telecast, but he doesn't seem to be able to finish the tournament. He keeps losing on television, actually losing places. He'll qualify 3rd, end up 4th. Qualify 2nd, end up 3rd. He needs to get that first win under his belt so he can feel comfortable going into the next match, but he's got to have his hands full. Brian Voss is really ready to play. If anybody was relaxed in practice, it was Brian Voss. He was doing trick shots for the audience, things like that.
Well, we've got 2 of the PBA millionaires in this opening match as Parker leaves the 3-pin. Voss concentrating.
I think he's taking a nap. You really want to know the truth. Brian Voss, nothing seems to bother him. He's just very relaxed. Wake up, Brian. You're up next.
Brian, who has won a tournament in each of the past 8 consecutive years, at least one tournament, as Parker converts the 3-pin, needs a win this year in 1995 to continue that streak and try and catch the all-time record holder in that. You happen to know who that guy was? Won 14 years in a row?
Who is it?
He's sitting right next to me.
I did?
You
Oh,
hold
I didn't
the
even
record.
realize that.
Yes.
I thought Don Johnson or somebody,
No.
or Dick Weber.
1970 to 1983, Earl Anthony won 14 consecutive years, at least one title.
How about that?
Well, boy, he had that head pin spinning and dancing and doing everything but knocking it down.
Made a little wiggle with his foot out there. He knew that was going to be a problem getting the 10 pin on, but it just didn't work for him. Cross lane here for the 10 pin.
Changes balls. No problem. Here's our masking unit cam. Watch the head pin.
No love tap this time.
Nope.
Well, no 300 in the first match. Anyway, $10,000. Is that right, Mike? $10,000 from the PBA?
That's correct. For a 300 on our telecast tonight. Bryan Voss, fourth frame, leading by 9 pins. Right back in there. Boy, the 7 and 10, everything was up there for a while. He winds up with only the 7 pin.
Ball didn't really hit real hard there. It just seemed like it kind of pushed the pins rather than hitting them. And
yeah.
Didn't get anything going toward the 7.
Everything just seemed to be in slow motion there. Cross lane, again, switches balls right at the 7 pin. Bryan Voss has it. He also has the lead in this match, but only by 8 pins. Parker, he'll be back, and so will we, right after these messages. The Tucson Open is being brought to you by Advil, advanced medicine for pain. No non-prescription pain reliever is proven to last longer than Advil. Parker Bohn in the 4th frame, up on lane 16, trailing by 8 pins. Right through the heart of the pins, leaving the 2-4.
Parker Bohn, another one of the players with the great arm swing, the real fluid swing. He can create tremendous rotation on the bowling ball because his timing and rhythm are so consistent. Gets to the foul line perfectly balanced, gets the ball well out in front of him on his good shots. That one seemed to get down a little early, Mike, and maybe that's what created that early hook, got the ball through the middle of the head pin.
At the spare. Wow, that's kind of surprised him, didn't it?
I don't think it surprised him as much as it looked like, because it just slid a little more than he expected it to.
Be sure to join us for the IBM ATP Tour. It's the Canadian Open with all of the leading qualifiers. Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras, Boris Becker, and Michael Chan. The Canadian Open is the 3rd oldest tournament in the world behind Wimbledon and the U.S. Open.
I had no idea.
Well, he goes from high to light, and neither result is very good, leaving the 3-7.
And this is probably about as tough a spare as you can get if you're left-handed on this particular lane condition. The ball either skids to the left of the 3-pin or wants to hook very sharply in front of it. No matter where he plays it, whether he goes cross lane or down the right side.
We've seen now with the left-hander, he goes high, light. Tells me right away, not much area out there. Do you suppose because there's 3 left-handers warming up and everything, they've changed the condition on the left side?
Well, generally on the left side, you know, we've watched the match play last night, things like that, and talking to the left-handers, the left side actually gets better with more play. It breaks down, they get a better ball reaction.
Well, another 10-pin for Bryan Voss.
Just can't seem to get the entry angle down. If he can get that, he's had 5 shots right there. Just can't seem to carry the corners, the 7-pin and 2 10-pins. But the way right now Parker Bohn is going, he doesn't really need to carry. He just needs to stay clean, make his spares.
Converts the 10-pin. Bryan, who is 36 years old, he's married with 2 children. He's in his 55th television appearance, Earl, with a record of 52 of 43, almost a .218 average. Pretty impressive career. Made $1,340,000 so far in his career.
Well, he's an impressive athlete. He's in excellent condition, takes good care of himself physically.
Well, back in the pocket.
Actually, I think that hit carries better than the solid one, Mike, don't you? The light hit seems to have been carrying off the lefties and the righties. If they can just get a piece of the head pin, the pins really fly for them here on these synthetic pin decks.
Parker trying for his first strike in a while. Yeah, I think that that you've got the picture there. I mean, I always felt that I was a little better off light. My wife used to argue with me all the time about that, but I'd always rather be light than high.
No question. I used to line up for the 6-pin, and if I could leave the 6-pin, I felt I was lined up, and then I would adjust off that. But your ball hit a lot harder than mine.
Oh, yes, right, yeah. Parker has the conversion.
Well, we'll take a look at one of the really true strokers in the game. It kind of reminds you of Dave Davis, this really smooth free arm swing. You look at the concentration on the face, look at that high backswing, but look how straight and free it is from the shoulder. A good long slide, the perfect position over the knee, the balance, the back foot on the floor to keep him in that position.
Well, that's pretty. Is a pretty picture there of him at the foul line, isn't it?
That's just almost like a videotape of how to do it.
Parker Bohn trying to get something started, and through the nose again. He's light. The last time he must have made some kind of move. Now it's a 2-4-7.
This particular shot here, he just kind of eased up on it. He's trying to get a ball reaction that he can trust, but it's just not happening for him. And again, the scores have been very high all week long. I can't believe that the lanes have changed this dramatically, that someone with the experience of Parker Bohn III can't get lined up, Mike.
Well, he's certainly not getting tapped right now. He just can't get the ball in the 1-2 pocket, but he can convert the 2-4-7. Parker Bohn trailing by 34 pins. It's getting late in this match. Earl and I'll be back for the completion of match number 1 after this. Bryan Voss in the 7th frame, leading by a commanding 34 pins, can basically just put this match away here with a couple strikes, Earl.
It looks that way. The best Parker Bohn you can expect if he were to strike out would be something in the 203 neighborhood, and that's not going to be good enough unless Voss should really fall apart. And he's been hitting the ball pocket every shot. This time he's made a mistake.
Suddenly, the 2-8 pops up.
Looks like Bryan tried to make something happen here. Instead of just continuing to trust his swing and his shot and just let the pins fall if they would, he tried to make a strike happen, and it looked like he moved in a little bit, tried to get a little more on the ball, a little more rotation, and it didn't react for him. Tough spare, 2-8. Got to cover them both with the ball.
Is he going to throw it straight or hook it?
I believe he's going to go down the left side and hook it.
Oh, you got it right.
Boy, just did get it.
Hold up that 1 foot. What did he say?
I don't know what he said, but he's got everybody pulling for him. Here's another look at it. You can see he's really hooked this in there. You don't get quite the idea of how much he hooked it as you did on the first shot, but slowed it down and hooked it across. If that ball had gripped early, it could have hooked right into the channel, Mike.
Well, still leading by the 34 pins. It's the 8th frame.
Well, Parker Bohn's still in the match, but he needs a minor miracle.
Bryan stuffs it in there. 9-pin falls very slowly, but it does fall. Is he going to move now, Earl? I mean, get off that outside angle?
I think what Parker's got to do is just tighten up the line, square it up. By that I mean move his feet a little bit left and really throw it hard up at him and at him, and he's very capable of that. He's trying to hook it, and that's why I think he's had problems with trying to hook the ball. You know, when you try to hook it, the ball tends to overreact. And talking to Parker in practice before we went on the air, he said his best shots were when he went up and at him with a lot of ball speed. Here he sees he's trusting the ball. He's giving it lots of room and hooking it back. And he did strike here, but he almost had the 7-10 also.
But it does show his versatility to change the shot. I mean, he is trying something different by hooking it more this time.
Oh, he's a very capable player, but he tried hooking it more in 15 last time and hit the nose, remember? A little bit high there, a little more ball speed, too. Only the 6-pin. Maybe the 2 lanes he feels are a lot different. Only he knows. He's the guy that's got all the experience. He's the guy that's throwing the bowling ball.
And he's the guy that's basically out of this match. The best he can get is 183. If he strikes out in the 10th, Bryan just needs a mark in 2 frames to move on. Face another outstanding left-hander, and Ricky 300 Ward.
300 this week.
And he only has 7 in his career. Last night, about the 5th or 6th game, he started with the first 9, left a solid 7 in the 10th frame, trying for 4.
Well, if he can get one on television, like we said, $10,000 to the player who can do it.
Well, he doesn't need to carry this game to win this match. Next game, suddenly, he may be kicking those 10s and 4s out.
You never know. The game, as the oil moves just slightly, you get a little different ball reaction, different entry angle. All of a sudden, those same hits are strikes.
Bryan Voss, a clean game, opened with a double, and basically has just kept the ball in play since then. And that's all he's needed to do. Just needs a few pins.
Not anything that I expected, Mike. I expected us to see a big, high-scoring match.
Well, he averaged 240 in this pair. Parker only averaged 216, I think it was.
Well, if someone were to ask me, what do you predict for scores for today's telecast, I would have said, well, someone wins it, they're going to have to average somewhere in the 235, 240 neighborhood. That's what I would have expected.
Bryan Voss starts with a double. Now he ends with a double. One more strike, it'll be 217. Nice steady game.
You see Bryan Voss standing there swinging his arm with his eyes closed. He's trying to get a feel in his mind and visualize the shot going down the lane before he throws it. The idea being that if you can see it happen, then you can repeat it.
Well, a little softer with the speed, leaves the 310. Opening win of 215. Parker trying to finish it off here.
And another loss for Parker, who has really struggled on television over the last couple of years.
His last 12 telecasts now, he's failed to have a win as he gets it in the pocket for the 7-pin. He struggled getting there, and even when he did get there, he couldn't strike.
He made a tremendous move with like 4 games to go last night, or maybe 5. He was 300-plus pins behind 5th place and picked all that up to get to 5th. That's amazing. Sometimes you think that that's a destiny for you, that you're going to go right on through and win, like John Handegaard a couple weeks ago just snuck in by 1 pin. Not to be for Parker Bohn this time. Ooh, and he finishes with the PBA washout, the 13647. Is that right? Well, Parker finishes up with a disappointing 167. We're going to have an average builder here on the slide, and it's going to look just like this guy throwing the ball right here. On tonight's telecast, we have 3 left-handed bowlers and 2 right-handed bowlers. We have 4-step deliveries, 5-step deliveries, even a 6-step delivery. We have a wide range of approaches coming at the pins from both sides of the lane. But one thing all 5 of these players have in common is that they all have a nice long slide at the finish of their approach, especially Bryan Voss. Now, 2 questions come to my mind about the slide. Why or how do I develop a nice long slide, and why is it necessary? Let's look at the how-to first. With all of these guys, whether they're taking 4, 5, or 6 steps, when they hit the next to last step, and that left foot for the right-handers and right foot for the left-handers, the toe is still on the ground at this point. What you should do is push the ball of the foot forward right in the center of my body so that I'm nice and balanced and ensures a nice long slide. Now, Bryan Voss is a good example of that. Let's look at his finish right now. You see that push right through? And he lets it go right on balance. It's right in the center of his body. He's on balance at the finish of that approach. Now, the second question, why is a long slide important? Well, I believe that a long slide helps ensure a quality hand release. Let me explain how that works. Now, as I'm pushing this slide forward right here, the ball is coming through at the same time. As it gets right underneath my shoulder here, my thumb comes out of the ball, and I'm still sliding forward as my fingers help give a heavy lift to the ball out into the lane and hopefully into the 1-3 pocket. Now, if I short slide this, what I mean by that, if I put my heel down early at this point and I stop sliding, what I think happens is that the hand release suffers. The thumb doesn't get out quite as clean, and the fingers don't have the heavy lift to it, and the ball doesn't do what I want it to do. It suffers that way. So remember, if you want to improve that finish position, a nice long slide, what you do, push it from the next to last step right into the center of your body. That'll improve the finish position, improve your slide, and I believe improve your hand release, which will mean higher scores. Next week, we're going to Austin, Texas, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you then. In the open match, Voss defeats Bohn 215 to 167. He moves on now to take Ricky Ward in our second match. You be sure to stay tuned for that. We'll be right back after this. Bryan Voss starting match number 2. And I guess we'll find out if that left side has gotten a little touchy, or depending on how Ricky Ward does here. Bryan sends it down. Still's having trouble knocking 10 down instead of 9. Switches balls again.
Goes cross lane and throws it very straight at the 10 pin. Converts it. And we get our first look at Ricky Ward. Ricky from North Fort Myers, Florida. He's only 26 years old. Still single. And this week, bowled 300 games, Earl.
He did, and I think Parker Bohn III just has some problems. I think Ricky's going to find a way to score here, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think he's going to find a way to get it done. 3-9 here. He almost had 3-7-9, which would have been almost impossible. This is a makeable spare, and talking to Ricky about how he plays anything on the right side that is like a bucket or part of the bucket, which this is, he just moves his feet a little bit off his strike line, a couple boards to the left, throws his strike ball, and lets it hook across the lane.
Plays it that way, has no trouble converting it. All right. Ricky, who is wearing one of our microphones, so we just heard him say, all right. Got that nerves out of his system a little bit with the mark in the first frame.
That's what it's all about. I think more than anything else for Ricky, it's going to be the first couple of frames. He doesn't make a lot of telecasts. He has to get loose. Bryan Voss, a very experienced veteran, as you mentioned, he's been on 55 telecasts or something in that neighborhood. For Ricky Ward, he's still learning.
Ricky, this is just his 6th as he leaves a solid 7 in the second frame. He does have one victory.
Ricky's going to switch bowling balls, go to something that'll not hook. All your spares, folks, all you got to do is hit them. You don't have to hook the ball a lot, anything like that. Just knock them down. The ball will do that if you throw it straight.
Ricky cross lane at the 7th pin. That one victory was in 1993. The Johnny Petraglia of Brunswick, in North Brunswick, New Jersey.
Hall of Famer Johnny Petraglia.
Yeah. His tournament named after him.
Left-hander, won by a left-hander.
Bryan Voss on lane 16. You're right about that light hit carrying better, aren't you?
He's carried better all last night. It ought to carry the same way today.
This is Bryan in the close of the last match with his eyes shut. What's he doing, Earl?
Well, he's trying to feel in his mind, or see in his mind, what it should feel like to make the shot that he wants to make. And he's imaging the ball going down the lanes. And if he can see it, like I say, in his mind, see it going down the lanes, then he can repeat it physically.
Wow. He can repeat it, but he can't control the 7 and the 10. You know, it was right here a few years ago that Jess Stayrook, I believe, on this very lane, made the 7-10, and there's been 3 or 4 of these 7-10s made this week. So watch it. Ooh,
almost got it up. Bryan holds his fingers up. It was that close, he said. Well, he's given an opening to this young guy, and Ricky Ward is taking a little re-rack. While he's doing that, Mike's got a little message for you.
Well, we'll do it after. We'll do the message after Ricky throws his shot.
Well, Ricky seems to be a little more comfortable now. You can see the concentration on his face. Gets the foul line in good shape. Rotates it.
I guess there's nothing wrong with that lane, is there, Earl? Okay, it's ESPN's Thunder Thursday. That's Thursday, July 27th, 8:30 Eastern Time. It's the USAC Midget Race coming from Indianapolis Raceway Park in Indiana. Mike Durbin along with Earl Anthony. We're in Tucson, Arizona, Golden Pin Lanes. This is our second match. We're in the 4th frame. Ricky Ward on a strike. In the middle of the Tucson Open Finals. Whoa! That was the head pin getting that message across.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's that rotation, the resin reactive bowling balls, the power that these young players can put on a bowling ball. You see the ball out near the channel. In the last 10 feet, it crosses about 14 boards to get to the head pin, and the head pin goes all the way across the lane. And his reaction, just a little love tap there.
Bryan Voss trying to recover from a terrible break in the 3rd frame. And now an equally bad break in this 4th frame, leaving the solid 8. And Bryan's saying, what do I got to do, guys? You know,
he was joking a little bit about the 7-10, but he's not joking about that solid 8. He knows he has to get it going. Ricky Ward is relaxed now. He's throwing the ball well. Bryan Voss has to throw some strikes now. This is starting to look like what it looked like last night in the match play. The players are getting lined up and throwing strikes.
Well, Bryan moving to the left lane where he's had success except for the third frame here.
Bryan, what he looks like he's trying to do is keep the speed at a moderate level, something just above average, and hook the ball a lot. Try to make the ball finish hard in the back end. As you can see, he's really given a lot of room. Trouble with that is it's very difficult to control the break point, and if you do get it into the pocket area, it tends to be behind the head pin, and you don't carry very well.
So why is he doing it?
Well, he feels evidently that the lane condition demands that. We're going to look at that strike ball again. You can see he's crossing a lot of boards, getting it way out there and trying to really rev it up to make it hook back. And the break point is so hard to control that he can't do it.
Yeah, a lot of players do go to that revved up, slow down, and let it hook back shot.
Well, a good example is Mark Williams, for example. We've seen Mark Williams on our telecast in Kennewick a couple of weeks ago. He's that type of player. He likes to slow it down and cross a lot of boards and hook it, but that's Mark's game. I don't think Bryan Voss is quite that comfortable. Bryan is a much better player when he's not. He's kind of like what we call a tweener. He doesn't want to hook it a lot. He doesn't want to go straight. He likes to just enough to make the pins go down. And here's another hit that's light for Ricky Ward, only the 3-pin.
So it keeps Bryan in the match. He'll be trailing by 23 pins. Ricky converts this. Ricky Ward at the 3-pin should present no problem, and does it.
Here's a look at the style of Ricky Ward, a very talented young player. You can see how he stands very upright, feet right together. The 4-step approach, the long free swing, but look at the elbow. The elbow straight down at the floor as the hand goes straight up. That means he's not trying to make the ball hook. He's letting the rotation of his wrist hook the ball instead of force the break point. That's where it should be. The elbow straight down to the floor, the hand straight up.
And there's the result.
Oh, my.
Ricky Ward leading this match by 23 pins. When Bryan Voss come back? Well, when we come back after these few messages, we'll find out. Bryan Voss, 6th frame, right lane.
And it's getting late, as you said, Mike. He has to get it going now.
Boy, it looks like, you know, he eases up just a little bit, and that ball just turns dead left.
Yeah, and when he eases up, he tends to give it more room, get it out to the right where there's more friction, and the ball wants to hook harder on the back end. And I think if he's going to get out there, he has to move his feet to the right and throw the ball with more ball speed.
Which he's capable of doing.
Very definitely. He's one of the best players in the world at throwing it hard and still getting enough on it to make it hit.
And keeping his rhythm together and keeping the ball on line.
He's so strong physically. He doesn't look that big, but at about 5'11", 170 pounds, he's in excellent condition, and you can see that Bryan takes very good care of himself. Very strong physically. Big hook again. Got it this time. The white hit. It's the only one that's carried for him, Mike.
Yeah, that's been pretty reliable, except for that 7-10.
Exactly.
Ricky Ward, working on a strike, leading by 24 pins, can really hammer Bryan Voss with a couple of strikes here. He's only had 1 strike on this right lane, though, so far.
Well, he's left a 3-pin and almost left a 3-7-9.
No trouble then. Ricky seeing the opportunity and responding to the challenge. Leading now by 34.
Bryan Voss not looking quite as relaxed as he did when he was bowling against Parker Bohn III in the first match, because now he's the one having the problems.
Well, 160 is not too tough to beat generally.
Well, I don't know.
Generally, I said.
Ricky Ward on a double.
Trying for 3. Didn't get the message across this time. Leaves the 7-pin. Keeps Bryan Voss in the match.
That popping sound you hear is his thumb coming out of the thumb hole as he releases the ball.
Here's some of the 300 games, and we see Ricky leading the list with 3 of them. Mike Albee have 1.
right.
Says all right. He's not too talkative out there wearing that microphone, is he?
No, maybe he realizes he's got it on and doesn't want to say anything. Normally, he's quite a little bit of a character. He's he's known on the tour for telling the worst jokes on the pro tour.
I thought they don't know what. No, I won't say that. I'll restrain myself.
Well, we're very fortunate again this week, Michael, to have with us doing the statisticians work up here, the stats work up here for us, keeping score, is Philip Rigner, one of the nicest guys in bowling. Unfortunately, he has yet to win that first tournament, but it's coming, right, Phil? It's coming. That's attaboy.
Well, back to 23 pins. If Bryan wants to win this second game, and I'm sure he does, he's got to strike here in the 9th frame.
The only thing that could go wrong for Ricky Ward is if he gets a little careless on the right-hand lane. Lane 16 has been the one he's had most of his problems on, getting the ball into the pocket area. If he were to give it a little bit too much speed, he could leave that 3-7 or that 3-7-9. Bryan Voss, possible 224. Needs this one to set up the 10th.
Voss trying to apply pressure, and does, to Ricky Ward. So how will Ward respond?
Well, he's ready. He was up at the ball return just as that ball hit the head pin. And here's another look at it. As you can see, the light hit has been the one that's given him the best results. And there you see the head pin go to the sideboard, kick out the 4, 5, 7, and there's Bryan's reaction.
Always an emotional player. He just wants a chance, is all he wants.
Whoops. Something bothered him, and he did the right thing. He stopped.
A fly, he says.
A fly flew in front of him, huh?
I think we all heard that.
Really? Fly.
Looks at the tournament director, says, now don't fine me for taking too much time. Really, it was a fly.
He's really a funny little guy. He's
no joke.
Quite a character.
No bad joke. It was a fly. Oh, and it was a trip 6.
Tip 4-7, 6-10 is what it really was.
Big shot by a young guy here. Strikes in the 9th frame to set himself up for the 10th.
Well, this is the second match of the day, excuse me. And here's another look at that last shot. You can see the last 4 pins down were the 4, 7, 9, 10. Excuse me, the 4, 6, 7, 10. I can't even say them anymore, Mike.
Just double pinochle.
Double pinochle. There you go. This is the strike to win the match right here. If he strikes here and gets any count like 8 or 9 on the next ball, he's a winner.
Ooh, yes, he says.
Well, Ricky looking up the score sheet, so is Bryan Voss, and they both realize if he gets 9 on this ball, this match is over. Of course, the strike would be a little bit better.
Strike's better than 9, yes. Voss just hoping for a couple of pins to stand up down there.
Ricky wouldn't mind leaving a 7 pin. Maybe this is one of the few times all week that he wouldn't mind leaving a 7.
He just drills it in there, and he's going to take home this victory no matter what Bryan Voss does. So the youngest player on our telecast tonight has prevailed in this match. Bryan Voss is going to take home $4 grand, add to his $1,340,000 he's made over his career. Woo! Well, Ricky Ward, 234. Bryan Voss, the best he can get is 224. Our next match will be coming up right after these messages. Next week, Austin, Texas. It's the Columbia 300 Open. Earlier time, 7:30 Eastern Time, 4:30 out on the coast. Baseball tonight comes right after our telecast tonight. That's hosted by Gary Miller. There were other people that made money here this week. 6th place, Steve Wilson, and Jess Staybrook, who's won twice this year, finished 7th.
And of course, David Ozio, one of the top players over a number of years here, Mike, and right behind him, Dennis Horan, another left-hander who did very well this week.
10th place, Larry Stevens from L.A., and Tim Lanning from Texas was in 11th.
And bowling's only Grand Slam winner, Mike Albee, and he's currently the leading money winner on the tour, and Mike Edwards, who finally won his first championship last year.
In 14th, Don Mosier, steady as always. Glenn Blakely was in 15th from Tacoma, Washington.
And some of the other players, of course, who made the top 24 match play.
Mark Williams, we've seen before. There's a nice young player, Billy Orlikowski.
I'm glad you pronounced that one for me, Mike. Mike Scroggins, you know, Mark is the former PBA Rookie of the Year.
Curtis Odom, a name from the past a little bit. Dave Arnold, steady as always. Walter Ray, maybe the best bowler in the world.
He's going to go back and defend his world championship in horseshoes here in a week or so.
And our senior in the top 24, Larry Lobb, and the alternate all-time leading money winner, Pete Weber. Our final score, 234 to 200. Ricky Ward is the winner. That entitles him to the right to move on and face another red-hot bowler, Bryan Goebel. We'll see how that comes out right after this. Joining us for the third match tonight is the 1992 winner of the Tucson Open, still living down in Florida. Welcome, Bob Vesby.
Glad to be here, Mike.
Bob, you made the telecast in 93. You won in 92. You always bowl well here in Tucson. How'd you do this year?
Well, I struggled a little bit this year, you know. This week, the lanes were relatively pretty tight, and it was an inside shot, so I thought I was going to bowl pretty good, but it just didn't turn out that way.
Well, what do you see happening out here now?
I think you'll see a real competitive match between Bryan and Ricky. Bryan's probably going to be playing right around the fourth there with a tight swing, probably banking around 10, and Ricky's going to be pretty steady. You know, he bowled really good yesterday. Really good. Really good. I mean,
a lot of 300 games this week.
I think he actually shot 380 over with a 120 game yesterday over 8 games.
A 120
yes,
game? So even when they're bowling well, they can still pop over that bad game.
You never know when they'll pop up and get you.
Ricky Ward opens the match on lane 15. And we've seen that before, the old solid 7. Earl, you stirred at that a few times in your career, or?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. Enough to build a couple of houses, I think, Mike. He shouldn't have any problem with this. He's one of the better spare shooters on the left side. Throws it hard, straight, uses a lot of the lane.
And we saw him practicing it in the practice session. We kind of teased him about it. Steve said you plan on leaving a few of those. Bryan Goebel, 6 steps, won 4 times last year. Just been bowling great for the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's really blossomed as a player out here. You know, he had 2 titles real early in his career, and he really bowled well last year in '93.
Well, you said that. He'd be playing a little tight inside as he trips the 4 to open up with.
Yeah, Bryan has a real good style here. He hooks the ball quite a bit for a guy with such a smooth delivery. You'll see his arm swing going into right here. Perfect timing, real loose arm swing, followed through great with the shot.
Right on balance. And just a little high, but he wanted to give us a variety of pinfall there.
With that loose arm swing, he has a tendency to carry a little better.
Trying for the quick double, leaves the soft 10.
You know, Bob, I noticed something in Bryan's approach. He seems like he tends to walk from right to left. What's the reason for that, you think?
Well, the shot out on our tour, it kind of moves inside very deep late at night, and, you know, the ball returns come into play. So he has to learn to drift around the approach so he can develop leverage to throw it to the right. I mean, there's just not so much room on the approach to stand.
Okay, so by walking left, he gets the swing kind of in behind him, then he can create leverage or more back end, is what you're saying, right?
He has the ability to open up much more lane.
Right.
Yeah, that was one of my strengths too. Yeah, as he converts the 10 pin.
You didn't have any strengths.
Well, I know. I could make those 10
You had
pins.
an accumulation of weaknesses that worked well together. Sorry about that. I just couldn't resist.
I shouldn't stop feeding you lines like that.
That's right. All right. Ricky Ward, ready to go here. And I'll tell you who's a real happy man right now. That's his coach, Rusty McMullen, who's Ricky owes a lot of what he's done, too. He feels that he's been the one that's got him this far.
As he trips the 6 in the second frame. Even match through 2 frames.
Give you an idea of what they're playing on. We have 32 feet of oil, and it's been pulled to 41, and then we're playing with some AMF pins that are 3 pounds 7 ounces.
Sure don't act that way, do they?
No, the way these guys roll the ball, and nobody rolls it any better than the guy sitting right between us here, Bob Vesby. He can get as many revolutions on a bowling ball as anybody I've ever seen in my life, Bob.
Well, they come into play sometimes, but you got to keep that big ball tamed down a little bit.
Another solid 7. So do you kind of look at yourself that maybe you're the John Daly here of the bowling tour, that big hook and have to control it a little bit?
I'm sort of like John Daly with a John McEnroe attitude, sort of.
I say, okay. You got John on the brain there, okay.
I'd like to hear you explain that. Now, what do you mean by that attitude?
Well, I just can't stand to lose, and John McEnroe was such a great competitor all throughout his career. If I could do half as much in bowling as he did in tennis, I'll be a permanent star in the sport.
Oh, you have the ability, Bob. It's just a matter of getting it really under harness, maybe a little bit, huh?
Especially with these high-power bowling balls. Yeah, I get the most revolutions on tour, but it all matters in striking right now. So I've been developing a style to cut back a little bit.
Well, there's an unusual leave on that hit, huh?
5, 7, and 10 were up there for a brief second there.
Here's another look at it, Bob. Kind of explain what happened here, would you?
Well, we're playing so far inside that the oil that we're trying to play here is feeding the ball to the right. It's not really going to drive that hard. We're relying on the light hits in this tournament.
Cross lane at the 10 pin, no trouble. This week, the PBA lane maintenance put down a pattern that was kind of like a Christmas tree a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah. That's like a 3-stage oiling process. They first do the heads, and then the pine, and then the back ends.
And for our audience out there, the heads are
the first 15 feet of the lane, and the pine is the next 15 feet of or next 20 feet of the lane, and then from the back ends from there, from 40 feet on.
And for those of you who may not have noticed already, we're bowling on synthetic lanes, synthetic approaches, and synthetic pin decks. Brunswick System 2000.
The 4 and the 9 were up there for a split second, but the 9 pin went out, leaving a relatively easy spare. Bryan was on the telecast 2 weeks ago in Kennewick, Washington against John Handigard. Started fast with 6 in a row and then kind of just never got it together the last half of that game. And right now he seems to be just close to the pocket but can't double. At the 4 pin.
What do you think has happened, Bob, down the lane? Now, we've seen big scores all throughout the tournament. I watched the last 8 games of match play last night. Big numbers. Why aren't the players scoring better on 15 and 16 than they are right now?
I was talking to my roommate, and he said the lanes were breaking down at a very quick rate. He's already moved inside 5 boards from where he played the whole week. You're going to see guys trying to open up the lane a little bit more than usual. They're playing much more down and in.
There's the old messenger coming across to get that 7 pin again. Ricky Ward with a strike in the 4th frame. Top Rank Bank Boxing this Friday night. We've got Aristide Clayton, 12-0, going against Alejandro Sanabria. And here's a look at Ricky Ward's shot. There's the old message. Love it when that head pin comes across, right?
That was one of the key breaks of the whole week, is the ability to carry the light hit. The solid hits were bringing a lot of 10 pins and 7 pins.
More than double. He looks like he's gaining confidence as the game goes along.
He's really looked like he's loosened up a lot since the start of the match.
This guy, though, just exudes confidence, Earl. I mean...
Well, he's that type of player. He's a thinker. And the thinkers are usually the guys with the most confidence because they consider everything in advance, and so they've already decided what's going to happen before they release the ball.
Well, he made a right decision there, didn't he?
Well, that's the way this game, excuse me, Bob, that's the way this game should be played. You make your decisions on the bench, you get up there, and then you make the shot. The more time you stand there thinking about it while you've got the ball in your hand, the less apt you are to be relaxed and make a good shot.
Goebel trailing by 12 pins. Double puts him right back in the match. Psychologically, I kind of think this is a big shot for him.
Oh, no question about it. It also puts a little pressure on Ricky Ward.
And perfect. Can't throw it any better. Well, we've got a tight match here. Only 2 pins separate him. 4.5 frames to go. What'll happen? Well, make sure that you come back to find out right after this. Ricky Ward, lane 16, the 6th frame. He leads by 2 pins, working on a double.
Well, both players seem to be lined up, and both players look confident. Right now, it just looks like who's going to carry the corner pin, huh, Bob?
Exactly right. I think Ricky Ward would be a pretty... Oh, look at that.
We've seen this several times. Of course, Parker Bohn in the opening match left some kind of a combination of the 3-pin. Ricky Ward has done that a couple times in his match against Bryan Voss. And this is the first time, of course, in this game, but this spare doesn't get any easier each time you leave it. There's a lot of ways to miss it, not too many ways to make it. He's going to shoot it again off his strike line and try to hook the ball into it cross lane.
With a conversion, it's an even match. That's where we're at. Through 6 frames, we're all even. But that was a chance for Ward to answer back.
to Bryan Goebel's double, and he didn't do it. So psychologically, edge with Bryan?
It's coming up to the end of the game, you know. Even with the score of what it was going to be, whoever struck out was going to win the match. So I'm sure that's still in Bryan's mind. He wants to throw the next two and really put the pressure on Ricky.
Seventh frame. Message didn't come across, leaves the 7 pin. Somehow, when that other guy gets the strikes, it's just not quite so easy to freewheel it out there.
He looked a little anxious on that one. I think he wanted to get up there and throw a real good shot and put the ball back in Bryan's hand and see what he could do.
Cross lane at the 7 pin. And the old unforced error. And Bryan Goebel is ready to pounce on that as we see it just fall into the channel.
Well, Bryan Goebel seems to have the best entry angle. In other words, the ball's entering the pocket area at the best angle to strike, in my opinion. What do you feel, Bob?
Yeah, in this type of pattern, you want to keep the ball real tight. So I think Bryan's really playing the lanes really well.
The 9 pin was up. We had several pins dancing to knock it over.
I like the rotation he has on the ball, too. It's a heavy forward roll instead of the side turn. Here's another look at it, Bob. This goes down the lane.
He goes right through the shot very well. That's how it keeps the ball on a forward roll. Until the more you get the ball onto the side, with more side roll, you're going to get more of a skid hook reaction. He wants to have a nice heavy roll.
There we see the score. Goebel on a turkey, leading by 22 pins. It turns around in a hurry. Can make it 32 with one more here. Perfect.
There's the family. They're all excited.
Well, those are, oh, you got bowling pins and balls on his socks. I'll tell you what, he's dressed for the occasion, right?
Definitely has bowling on his mind.
And on his feet.
And on his feet. Both ends of his body.
Well, he's just a bowler head to toe, I'll tell you.
Well, Ricky Ward, still a possible, even though he missed a 7-pin, possible 226 score. And that would keep Bryan Goebel thinking he's still in the match.
Only if he strikes here, though, right, Earl?
He must strike here. The match is basically over.
In the 9th frame. Perfect. Well, kid showed me something there.
Bryan's going to need to throw one more strike here, or if he doesn't, he's going to have to fill at least 20 in the 10th. He might lose count to Ricky. This game is tighter than actually we thought.
So Ricky Ward with a potential score of 226 if he took it out the sheet. Goebel going at 228 pace right now.
Kind of interesting that Ricky Ward will have to finish on the lane he's had the most problems on, lane 16, in both of his matches.
I think Bryan was watching the previous matches before, and he chose lanes to make that happen.
I agree. No question about it. As we've mentioned before, Bryan Goebel, one of the guys that thinks the most out here. Always using his head, always planning ahead. And he knows exactly what he wants to do before he steps up on the approach.
In the position now, needing just a mark to lock it up. Of course, he's thinking what? Strike?
Just throw the best shot he's ever thrown like he's done all game.
Has to be aggressive. Can't try to be careful and can't aim it. Got to go after him, right?
Exactly. This is the 10th frame. You don't want to throw. You don't want to get tentative now. He's done so well so far.
Well, just a hair tentative on that shot, wasn't he? But leaves just the 4-7. He'll settle for that.
Well, Ricky Ward sitting on the bench hoping for some kind of a miracle, checking the score.
You know, this sets up the title match, and your roommate this week was Bob Belmont, who's leading this tournament. What's his mental state coming into this championship match?
I think he just tried to stay calm. You know, this afternoon we walked around for a couple hours, and he took a little nap just to stay calm. He made the show earlier this winter, and he was kind of nervous, and I think he wanted to take a different approach to this TV show. He led the tournament by quite a number, 400 pins almost. So he just wants to bowl as well as he did the first 3 days of this tournament.
Do you think he will?
I think he'll be just fine.
Did you give him any advice, Bob, at all?
I just told him to bowl good.
You got real scientific with him, huh?
Do what you know how to do.
Well, that's a Pretty fair game by Bryan Goebel, who, in my opinion, up to this point, has made the best shots of any of the guys on television. He's lined up the best. He's got the best entry angle.
Well, Ricky Ward leaves the old solid 8 in the 10th frame. Bryan Goebel's going to win this match. We'll be back with Championship Frame after this message. Be sure and stay tuned. Now it's time for Championship Frame. We take a look at the key shots of the opening 3 matches. In our opening match, Brian Voss needed this strike, Earl.
Well, and Brian Voss, under pressure, is as good as they get. A good free arm swing that we've talked about before. Got the job done.
He wound up in that match, as we see him finishing off that strike, winning it over Parker Bohn, 215 to Parker's disappointing 167. That entitled him to move on to face Ricky Ward, where his fortunes weren't quite so good. Ricky Ward now is in the 10th frame.
Well, everything turned around. It's just the opposite setting. Ricky Ward needing the first strike in the 10th to really set this one up and get it over with so he could advance, and that little light hit him thin, watch him spin shot, and his reaction.
He wound up winning 234 to 200. So Brian Voss' quest for winning 9 years in a row have to be delayed for a while as Ricky Ward now moved on to take on Bryan Goebel. He's in the 9th frame here, Earl.
Ricky Ward had his hands full. Bryan Goebel, again, with the best entry angle so far, getting the ball into the pocket area, the best of anybody. You see that heavy end-over-end roll, perfect strike.
And he likes it, yes. Bryan Goebel wins our semifinal match, 236 to 203. And we want to take this opportunity to thank Bob Vespi for joining us. And any predictions in this championship match?
I predicted it'll be a real good match. Bobby looks real loose out there, and so does Bryan. So I think you'll see a couple of 240 games this match.
All right, well, we're going to let you go, and you can go down and root for your roommate there, because we TV guys, we're not allowed to root, okay? In our next match, it's our championship match. Bryan Goebel, he looks ready. Bob Belmont, he's looking for title number 1. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Bob.
Mike Durbin with Earl Anthony here at Golden Pin Lanes in Tucson, Arizona. It's the championship round finals of the Tucson Open, and we're in our championship game with Bob Belmont seeking his first title, taking on a very experienced and confident Bryan Goebel.
Kind of interesting that the right-hand lane has been the more difficult, in my opinion, for the left-handers. Bob Belmont, by being the leading qualifier, has his choice of starting lanes, chose to finish on the right-hand lane.
Well, it tells me, too, you know, he must be very confident in it, because he's going to put himself in the position, if he has to strike out to win the match, you know, Goebel will already have his score up, and he'll have to perform in the 10th. Bryan hitting both lanes, as we can see there. Very steady game in his opening match. Entry angle you keep talking about, that one just broke a little bit early.
Yeah, he's going to have to parallel probably to the left a little bit. In other words, move his target and his feet about the same amount toward the center of the lane where there's a little bit more oil, get the ball to skid a little bit farther. As he continues to play, he's probably moving the oil. He's a very accurate player. I'm sure he's hitting the same part of the lane time after time, and he's moving the oil away from there. He likes oil inside of his target.
Uh-oh.
Oh, major mistake in a championship match. It's just hard to understand how that can happen, but it does happen.
So, I mean, you're always talking about him being a thinking player. Is that one time when he kind of fell asleep?
It looks to me like he did, don't you think?
Yep.
We're going to take another look at that shot. He obviously is balanced, got the ball out in front of him, no problem. Just got it in the middle of the lane. It just hit that oil I was talking about that he would use for his strike ball and skidded.
And backed up, yeah. He always feels so foolish. Now he's got to regroup and get himself back together. Which he does.
Kind of like that, huh?
Kind of like that. Little touch of the hands there between Belmont and Goebel.
Well, Belmont, kind of a free and easy type guy, likes to have a good time, likes to go out and play basketball with the guys. He dominated this tournament so dramatically, as you see there. 20-4 in match play against the best players in the world. You only lose 4 matches out of 24. You're bowling very well.
Boy, he wanted that double badly. Leaves the 7-pin.
And I watched him bowl last night for maybe 6 matches. Never saw him get the ball that far out in the lane in the air. Not one time.
Not one time.
Not one time. That's the first time I've seen him get the ball
Well,
that ball had to be
pressure's
8, 9 feet out in the air.
Pressure's a little different, Earl.
Well, another way, they don't hook in the air.
Yeah, I guess they don't. Bob Belmont's 34 years of age. He's 5'10", 215 pounds. Solid guy.
Very strong. Creates a lot of ball speed. Gets a real heavy roll, forward roll on the ball. You watch him as he holds the ball. Not a real good angle to have in the camera for a left-hander, but you'll see him cup that wrist, and he keeps it in that position all the way through the swing and gets tremendous rotation on the ball.
Leaves the 3-9, something that we saw in the right lane consistently. Interesting how different lanes will react differently for different people.
Well, right now, I think it's not so much a lane reaction as it might be just his physical reaction to what's going on out there. I think he's nervous.
Well, it's understandable, too,
sure,
right?
35th event on the PBA Tour. First real chance to win a major event here and beat the best players in the world. That's going to make anybody nervous.
Converts a tough spare right there. Of course, you know, when we talked earlier, you said that he'd do it.
I feel he's got a good chance to win the tournament.
Okay.
He's got his hands full here with Bryan Goebel. This guy's been one of the hottest players in the tour the last couple of years, and he's an experienced player and a winner. 4
titles last year. Last year he made $173,000. Nothing bad about that. There. He gets his double. He's back even in the match. And we'll see right there, basically an even match. Next week, don't forget to join us, 7:30 Eastern Time. That's Tuesday, August 1st for the Columbia 300 Open from Austin, Texas. After we finish, stay with us for Baseball Tonight, hosted by Gary Miller. Trying for 3. Ooh, the 8-pin almost stood, but it didn't.
Well, now we find out what the rookie is made of right here, because Bryan Goebel, the experienced veteran, putting pressure on him, he has to respond.
Leaves the 6-pin. Bob, who including this week and last week, is working on a string of 49 consecutive 200 games. A string that he wants to definitely continue in this match and will need to continue if he wants to win the tournament.
It's kind of interesting. When they bowled in match play early on in the first round of match play, Bryan Goebel defeated Bob Belmont 278 to 203, but later on in the position round last night, first and second, it was 279 for Belmont, 239 for Bryan Goebel. So they kind of traded punches there, you might say. 270 games are hard to beat.
Well, the knockout punch is coming in this game, though.
This is the one that counts.
And there's the old strike. There's John Belmont, Bob's father. I'm sure that his heart's beating rather quickly right now, too. Bryan leading in this match by 12 pins. Wants to take command of it right now.
Well, he made a move on this lane last time. He moved a little deeper, kind of softened the ball up and hooked it a little more, which could be dangerous. Got the job done.
When he starts striking, I don't think there's anybody that carries better than he does.
No, and especially, again, the light hit has been the most dramatic carrying hit here all week long. And the way these guys rotate a bowling ball, they get so much power on it. If they get any part of the head pin, they always have an opportunity to strike. And the solid hit seems to be the one that where they cringe a little bit. They're afraid they won't carry maybe the solid 8-pin or the solid 9-pin. For 5 in a row.
And a 32-pin lead.
What a great shot that is. Of his approach.
The old equalizer, the solid 10-pin, stops his string of 4. Gives Belmont a little hope if he can get a string of his own going together.
Bryan Goebel kind of sneaks up on the pins there. You notice he takes that 6-step approach, and the first 3, nothing happens with the bowling ball. Just kind of creeps up on the pins, pretends like they don't know he's coming, and then he gets the job done. Cross lane for the 10-pin.
Dead center. Probably the biggest shot of the week right now for Bob Belmont. Trailing by 21 pins. Get it within a mark if he can strike right here.
A lot of frames left. And this guy threw a lot of strikes all week long. Taking a little more time here.
Boy, he got it out on the lane like you talked about before, and it ran high, leaving the 247.
Yeah, he's really kind of lifting up on the ball, whereas when I watched him before, he was extending through the shot. When I watched him in match play last night, when he was successful, he was extending through the ball toward his target. Now he's lifting up on the ball and lopping it, and that creates a lot of back end or a lot of hard-hitting power, but if you can't keep it in the pocket area, it's not good.
We're going to take a look at what Earl was talking about here.
Here it is, Mike, and from the side, this is a great angle. You see his backswing, the cupped wrist. Here he comes through at the bottom, and you can see the ball still in his hand, and it's up in the air, way up in the air. It's actually leaving his hand going up.
So what should he be doing?
And look how short the follow-through is. Did you see that? Well, he's got to stay with it longer down the lane toward his target, I believe. He's got to chase the ball with his hand rather than throwing it off his hand.
Boy, it looked like he just threw it off his hand again that time.
Yeah, it looks like he's pitching pennies or throwing horseshoes rather than rolling a bowling ball. And a bowling ball, to be consistently accurate and with the break point, here's another look at that last shot. Again, he'll get rid of it on the upswing, and it's almost like he's trying to make the ball hook a lot more than is necessary rather than rolling it. What made him successful this week and dominate the tournament was the fact that he could roll the ball up to the pocket better than the other players.
Well, in fairness to him, I understand that the lanes on the left side are hooking more today, that he's moved further right than he's moved all week long. Maybe he feels that he has to do this to try and adjust to what's there.
Oh, I'm sure that in his mind there's a very good reason for it. We're just kind of back here guessing, and that's all you can do. Bob Belmont knows his game much better than we do, and so he knows what he's trying to do out there.
Here's a guy that's really on top of his game. He just throws ball after ball in the pocket, leaves the soft hand this time.
Well, as long as he doesn't strike, Bob Belmont's still in a match because he hasn't made the mistake of getting an open, which would have dearly cost him. At least he's staying clean, he's filling frames, making his spares. And Bryan Goebel, in order to defeat him, is going to have to throw a couple more strikes to lock this match up.
Converts the 10-pin, no trouble. And we see the scoreboard right now. Bryan leading by 22 pins. 7 frames are completed. We're down to the 8th, 9th, and 10th. A look of determination on Bob Belmont's face. See some doubt in those eyes, though, too. Nice break there, Earl.
That's what makes you a winner. When you get that kind of a break on a high hit, that could have been the 410. And we'll get another look at that one as you see the ball going high on the head pin. The break point is right there. High on the head pin, the last 2 down, the 410. And he wasn't real sure of it either, Mike. You can see his reaction.
You got that one down quicker, Earl.
Well, that's how he's played the lanes all throughout the event. Right up to this point, that was his normal release there. Much closer to where he's been playing before. Maybe in his mind that wouldn't work for him this afternoon, or he just felt that he had to do something different. But that looked more like the Bob Belmont that dominated this event.
At the 7-pin. Still in the match, but just barely alive, trailing by 23. If he strikes it out, he could finish with 214. Bryan Goebel right now is on a pace, if he would spare a strikeout, to shoot 217. So the 9th frame is absolutely essential for a strike for Bob. And maybe makes his best shot of the match right there, Earl.
That's right, and his reaction, you can see he's very thrilled with that one. Here's another look at that hand release we're talking about. That ball's on the lane maybe 6 inches over the foul line, as opposed to before when he was lofting the ball. And there's another, well, that's another one where he got it down fairly early. Not a bad shot at all there. And there you see the result, the strike.
Bryan Goebel trying to lock it up Perfect shot. Now he just needs a mark. He's in the 220s. Bob Belmont knows the situation. Nothing he can do except sit and watch. Change chairs, but I don't know if that helps.
He led this event by 343 pins over the person in second place, and that's domination. And it's unfortunate when you lead by that much that you're going to lose, but that's what bowling on the tour is all about. It makes a man out of you in a hurry.
Well, you certainly would know about that. I don't know how many times you did that. For the win. Oh, my goodness gracious. What a change in this match. The 4, 6, 7. Earl, you always talk about that you have to be aggressive. He just wasn't aggressive there, right?
Well, remember on that lane, he came up high before and tripped out the 410. And here's another look at that shot as it goes through the middle of the head pin. 4, 6, 10. 4, 6, 7. And get the 2 pins. But the pin count is turned around dramatically here. And this puts him, with the 9 out, at 212. Possibility of 214 for Bob Belmont. So 2 strikes and 9 to win.
But life. He has life. He has an opportunity where he had no opportunity before.
2 and 9 to win. He rolled it well.
The 6-pin, quality shot, but Bryan Goebel is going to be our winner. A hug between players. Earl, they didn't do that back when you and I were bowling.
Well, it was kind of an emotional match for Bryan Goebel. He wanted to win it very much, and of course Bob Belmont, who dominated the event. I've said that several times. He's an emotional type guy and a very good sport. These guys are playing for a living, though. They're playing for a lot of money, and sometimes it hurts a lot.
And we have a little malfunction of the machine right there. Bob Belmont stops. He was going to time it as the sweep would come back up, and it didn't come back up. So we're going to have to fix lane 16 so Bob Belmont could throw his final shot of the match. It did lighten the atmosphere around here a little bit. Right now, we have probably about 5 or 6 mechanics in the back there hurrying around. Before we leave, as we can see the automatic scorer back there with ESPN there. Here's Belmont's final shot. His reaction. And Bryan Goebel's reaction. One of relief. We'll be back to talk to Bryan Goebel right after these messages. Well, we're back with our champion. Are you relieved here?
Oh, yeah. I made a horrible shot there in the 10th, and I'm real lucky that I won. Bob bowled so fantastic all week, I don't think anybody had a chance to catch him, so I got extremely lucky, and it's great to win here in Tucson again. So I love this place.
Well, a guy that loves you, and he threw some quality shots in his career. The general manager here, Pete Thomas, has got a couple things for you.
Bryan, nice bowling all week long. First, like I said to Bob, he bowled terrific. He led the tournament by 300-400 pins. It's tough to lose in one game, but you came through it in the clutch, and congratulations. On behalf of Don Allen and myself and all of us here at Golden Pin Lanes, I'd like to present you this trophy and a check for $16,000 for your little daughter.
Well, thanks a lot, Pete. I look forward to coming here every year. The city's great, the golf's great, the bowling's great. You run a great tournament here, and I'll be back next year.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Well, in this match, you defeated Bob 212 to 190, but there was some doubt in that 10th frame.
Yeah, I was trying to stay, I missed the 4-pin in the first frame, but I knew I had a good shot, so I wasn't really worried about it. I was hoping Bob may have had the jitters the first time, or one of the first times bowling for the title. So I just held my composure and kept trying to put it in the hole, and I knew I just needed a mark to lock him out in the 10th, so naturally I did everything I could not to get it, and succeeded. So I was lucky that Bob didn't strike out.
Earl, you got a question for our champion?
Pete, excuse me just a little bit here, and we'll let him hold that. Oh, he's got the little girl to hold.
That's all right.
Look like your face.
Okay, we're going to get it in. We can handle this, right? It looked to me like you had the best entry angle of everybody. You were trying to play a tighter line than Bryan Voss was.
Well, I watched Bryan in his first match. He seemed to struggle just a little bit of over/under swinging the ball, and I thought all week I'd played both lines. So I decided to come over here and try the straighter into the pocket hole. It worked in practice, and it looked a little shaky the first couple frames, but I tightened it up even more after the first 4 frames. So. And it worked real good. I threw 5 in a row that felt great off my hand. So I knew that would work if I could just repeat the shots. So.
And we have somebody here that also might be able to help hold at least a check if she doesn't hold the trophy. She got it, didn't she? So your reaction to all this, now you realize that he is only the second player to win the Tucson Open twice. Barry Asher did it, and now Bryan adds his name to that list.
Oh, it's wonderful. I was lucky to be here both times. I also love Tucson, so we feel very happy to be here, and I'm pretty excited to have the check.
Well, Bryan, what's your future plans for the rest of the summer?
Well, I hope to win again. I'd like to go on to Austin. That was where I made the second show I'd ever made in Austin. I'd like to go down there and try to win back-to-back. It'd be nice.
Well, Bryan Goebel is our champion here. He wants to win again next week. I think he's got a chance. For Earl Anthony, this is Mike Durbin saying goodbye from Tucson. Be sure to join us next week in Austin, Texas for the Columbia 300 Open, 7:30 Eastern Time. Coming up next is Baseball Tonight.